For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On June 18, 2010, three college friends, Jake Harrison, 22, Melissa Kane, 21, and Tyler Brooks, 23, disappeared while on a hiking trip in Romania's Carpathian Mountains. Their rental car was found abandoned near a remote trailhead, but extensive searches by local authorities and mountain rescue teams yielded no trace of the trio. The case puzzled investigators in the rural Brașov County region. For 7 years, the disappearance remained an unsolved mystery that occasionally surfaced in local Romanian media and backpacker forums. Then, in August 2017, German tourists exploring an abandoned hunting cabin made a disturbing discovery that would finally reveal what happened to the three Americans during their ill-fated adventure. This is the complete story of Jake, Melissa, and Tyler's disappearance and the shocking evidence found in the remote Carpathian wilderness. June 18, 2010, marked the beginning of what was supposed to be a 2-week backpacking adventure through Romania for three recent graduates from Ohio State University. Jake Harrison, a geology major, had planned the trip as a celebration before starting graduate school. His girlfriend Melissa Kane, who studied environmental science, and their mutual friend Tyler Brooks, an adventure photography enthusiast, had eagerly joined the expedition. The trio had spent their first week exploring tourist sites in Bucharest and Brașov before heading into the more remote regions of the Carpathian Mountains. They had booked accommodations in mountain villages and planned to spend several days hiking unmarked trails that Jake had researched through online hiking forums and Romanian outdoor websites. On the morning of June 18th, they checked out of their guesthouse in the village of Raznov and drove their rented Dacia Logan toward the Postaveru Massif area. The guesthouse owner, Maria Popescu, later told investigators that the Americans seemed well prepared and excited about exploring the less touristy mountain regions that most international visitors avoided. Their last confirmed contact was a Facebook post by Tyler at 11:47 a.m., showing a photograph of mountain peaks with the caption, "Off the beaten path in Transylvania. Cell service sketchy, but the views are incredible." The post's location data indicated they were approximately 15 kilometers southeast of Raznov, in an area known locally for its challenging hiking terrain and sparse population. When the friends failed to return to their Brașov hotel by June 22 as scheduled, and missed their return flight to Cleveland 2 days later, concerned family members contacted the U.S. Embassy in Bucharest. Embassy officials worked with Romanian authorities to begin an investigation into the missing Americans. The initial search began on June 24 when Romanian police located the abandoned rental car on a dirt road near the village of Tohanu Veci. The vehicle was parked at what appeared to be an informal trailhead, with hiking gear missing but personal items like passports and electronics left inside. Inspector Gheorghe Munteanu of the Brașov County Police took charge of the investigation. His report noted that the car showed no signs of forced entry or struggle, and the keys were found in Jake's backpack in the trunk. The Americans' travel itinerary, written in Jake's handwriting, indicated they planned to hike a circuit route through several remote valleys over 3 days. Local villagers from Tohanu Veci provided the last confirmed sightings of the three Americans. Elderly farmer Ion Vladescu remembered seeing them around midday on June 18, asking for directions to old hunting trails that led deeper into the mountains. He had warned them about abandoned cabins and unstable weather conditions, but said they seemed confident in their abilities. The Romanian Mountain Rescue Service, Salvamont, initiated search operations with teams familiar with the treacherous terrain of the Postaveru region. The area was known for sudden weather changes, hidden crevasses, and numerous abandoned structures from Romania's communist era when state-sponsored hunting lodges dotted the remote valleys. Search teams covered approximately 80 square kilometers over 10 days, focusing on established trails and known camping areas. Helicopter overflights were limited due to dense forest cover and frequent mountain fog that reduced visibility. The terrain's complexity, with deep valleys and limestone cave systems, made comprehensive searching extremely challenging. The investigation revealed the trio's thorough planning, but also their unfamiliarity with Romanian mountain conditions. Jake's research notes, found in the rental car, showed he had consulted multiple online sources about hiking routes but relied heavily on outdated maps and information from hiking forums that weren't always accurate. Their gear was appropriate for summer mountain hiking, but they had underestimated the unpredictability of Carpathian weather. Local meteorological records showed that temperatures dropped unexpectedly on June 19th and 20th, with heavy rainfall that could have created dangerous conditions for inexperienced hikers in the region. Romanian investigators worked closely with U.S. embassy officials and the families back in Ohio. Phone records showed the friends' cell phones had lost signal in the mountainous area, which was typical for the remote valleys they planned to explore. Their bank accounts showed no activity after purchases made in Raznov before their departure. The search expanded to include local caves and abandoned mining shafts, common features in the limestone-rich Carpathian geology. Teams also checked numerous abandoned cabins and hunting lodges scattered throughout the region, remnants of communist-era recreational facilities that had been largely forgotten after 1989. After 3 weeks of intensive searching, the official operation was scaled back. Inspector Munteanu concluded that the Americans had likely become lost or injured in the vast wilderness area, but the terrain made locating them extremely difficult without more specific information about their intended route. The families of Jake, Melissa, and Tyler maintained contact with Romanian authorities and organized their own search expeditions during summer months when weather conditions were favorable. Jake's parents, Robert and Susan Harrison, made multiple trips to Romania, working with local guides and continuing to search areas that official teams might have missed. The case received coverage in Romanian media and international backpacker communities, generating occasional tips and reported sightings. Several hiking groups organized volunteer searches, and the story became well known among outdoor enthusiasts who traveled to Romania's mountain regions. In 2012, human remains found near a different mountain area initially raised hopes for resolution, but forensic analysis determined they belonged to a Romanian hiker who had gone missing several years earlier. The discovery highlighted how the Carpathian Mountains could conceal missing persons for extended periods. Social media campaigns kept the case visible, with family members regularly posting updates and appeals for information. The hashtag #FindJakeMelissaTyler became popular among international hiking communities, and their story was featured in several documentaries about missing persons in remote areas. Romanian authorities kept the case active and continued following up on reported sightings and new information. However, as years passed without concrete evidence, the investigation became increasingly focused on providing closure to the families rather than expecting to find the missing Americans alive. August 15, 2017, began as an adventure day for German tourists Klaus and Ingrid Weber, who were exploring Romania's mountain regions during their annual hiking vacation. The retired couple from Bavaria had been staying in Brașov and decided to explore some of the more remote areas they had read about in hiking guides. Following a rough trail map, they hiked into a valley about 20 kilometers from where the American student's car had been found 7 years earlier. The area was seldom visited by tourists, marked by dense forest and several deteriorating structures from the communist era. Around 3:30 p.m., while seeking shelter from an afternoon thunderstorm, Klaus and Ingrid discovered an abandoned hunting cabin partially hidden by overgrown vegetation. The structure appeared to have been unused for many years, with a partially collapsed roof and walls covered by climbing vines. Inside the single-room cabin, Klaus noticed what appeared to be camping equipment scattered on the floor. Upon closer examination, Ingrid realized they had found backpacks and gear that seemed too modern and well-preserved to have been abandoned for decades like the cabin itself. Among the items were 3 backpacks, sleeping bags, hiking boots, and personal belongings that appeared to be from relatively recent visitors. Most significantly, Klaus found a digital camera and a passport with Jake Harrison's name and photograph. The realization that they might have discovered evidence related to the missing Americans prompted them to immediately contact Romanian authorities. Romanian police arrived at the remote cabin within hours, establishing a crime scene and beginning careful documentation of everything found inside. Inspector Munteanu, who had led the original investigation, personally oversaw the evidence collection process. The cabin contained belongings clearly identified as belonging to all 3 missing Americans. In addition to Jake's passport and camera, investigators found Melissa's journal, Tyler's photography equipment, and various personal items that families later confirmed belonged to their loved ones. More disturbing was the evidence suggesting the friends had spent considerable time in the cabin. Melissa's journal contained entries dated several days after their disappearance, describing their situation and growing desperation. The final entry, dated June 23, indicated they were lost, running low on food, and that someone in the group was seriously ill. The journal revealed that the trio had become lost during their first day of hiking and had sought shelter in the cabin during bad weather. What began as a temporary stop became an extended stay when they couldn't find their way back to their car or locate any marked trails leading to populated areas. Digital photographs on Jake's camera showed their deteriorating condition over several days. Early images captured their optimism and the scenic mountain views, but later photos revealed increasing anxiety and physical exhaustion as their situation became more desperate. Forensic examination of the cabin revealed additional evidence about the Americans' final days. Food containers and water bottles showed they had rationed their supplies carefully, but their provisions had been insufficient for an extended stay in the remote location. Medical supplies found in their first aid kit had been used extensively, suggesting someone had suffered injuries or illness that prevented the group from attempting to hike out of the area. Makeshift bedding arrangements indicated they had tried to create comfortable shelter while hoping for rescue or recovery. The cabin's remote location explained why search teams had never found it during the 2010 investigation. Hidden in a small valley and accessible only through unmarked animal trails, it was not visible from established hiking routes or helicopter overflights. The structure didn't appear on any official maps and was known only to local hunters who rarely visited the area. Romanian investigators theorized that the trio had become disoriented during their first day of hiking, possibly due to weather conditions or navigation errors. Seeking shelter in the abandoned cabin, they had become trapped by their inability to find their way back to civilization and their deteriorating physical condition. The investigation focused on determining what had ultimately happened to the three Americans, as their remains were not found in or around the cabin. Evidence suggested they had eventually left the structure, possibly in a final attempt to reach help or find their way back to populated areas. Extended searches around the cabin area began immediately, with teams focusing on likely routes the Americans might have taken when leaving their temporary shelter. The difficult terrain included steep ravines, dense forest, and numerous natural hazards that could have proven fatal to weakened and disoriented hikers. After 2 weeks of intensive searching, Romanian mountain rescue teams discovered skeletal remains in a ravine approximately 2 kilometers from the cabin. The location suggested the three friends had attempted to follow what appeared to be a watercourse, possibly believing it would lead them to civilization. Forensic analysis confirmed the remains belonged to Jake, Melissa, and Tyler. Evidence indicated they had died from exposure and exhaustion, likely during their final attempt to escape the remote mountain area. The ravine's steep sides and hidden location had concealed their remains from previous search efforts. Personal items found with the remains included Tyler's distinctive camera strap and Melissa's jewelry, providing additional confirmation of their identities. The positioning of the remains suggested the friends had stayed together until the end, supporting each other through their final ordeal. Romanian authorities concluded that the trio had survived in the cabin for approximately 5 days after becoming lost, but their inexperience with the terrain and insufficient supplies had made their situation increasingly desperate. Their final attempt to reach help had ended tragically in the remote ravine. The discovery brought closure to families who had spent 7 years wondering about their loved one's fate. While devastating, the evidence showed that Jake, Melissa, and Tyler had survived longer than initially feared and had made rational decisions under extremely difficult circumstances. The case highlighted the dangers of hiking in remote areas without proper local knowledge and emergency communication equipment. Romanian authorities used the tragedy to improve safety information provided to international tourists planning mountain expeditions. The cabin where the Americans had sheltered was eventually marked with coordinates to assist future search operations in the area. Local authorities also improved trail marking and emergency shelter information for the region's few designated hiking routes. Klaus and Ingrid Weber, the German tourists who discovered the evidence, were recognized for their careful handling of the scene and immediate notification of authorities. Their actions provided closure that might otherwise have taken many more years to achieve. The three friends' families established a memorial fund supporting mountain safety education and search and rescue operations in Romania. Their tragedy became a teaching case for outdoor education programs, emphasizing the importance of proper preparation for wilderness adventures. Jake Harrison, Melissa Kane, and Tyler Brooks's story serves as a sobering reminder of how quickly wilderness adventures can become survival situations, even for young and healthy outdoor enthusiasts. Their experience demonstrates the critical importance of local knowledge and proper emergency preparedness when exploring remote areas. The 7-year delay in discovering their fate illustrates the challenges of search and rescue operations in complex mountain terrain. Despite extensive efforts by Romanian authorities and international volunteers, the remote cabin location remained hidden until discovered by chance. For Romanian tourism and mountain rescue services, the case provided valuable lessons about search protocols and tourist safety information. Improved communication systems and emergency shelter networks were developed partly in response to this tragedy. The international cooperation between U.S. and Romanian authorities throughout the investigation became a model for handling missing persons cases involving foreign nationals. The persistence of family members and volunteer searchers also demonstrated the importance of never abandoning hope in missing persons cases. The Carpathian Mountains continue to attract international hikers and adventure travelers, with Jake, Melissa, and Tyler's story serving as an important safety reminder. Their memorial encourages proper preparation, local guidance, and respect for the inherent dangers of remote wilderness areas. The case ultimately shows that nature's beauty comes with serious risks that require constant vigilance and preparation. While the three friends' adventure ended tragically, their story continues to educate and protect future travelers who venture into Romania's magnificent but unforgiving mountain wilderness. As of 2017, the abandoned cabin has been maintained as an emergency shelter with basic supplies, serving as both a memorial to the three Americans and a potentially life-saving resource for future hikers who might find themselves in similar desperate circumstances.